This video is gonna suck. So I originally wanted to make a video about integrity, specifically journalistic integrity. And I wanted to talk in depth about that, and that's just gonna have to come next week. Because right before I filmed this video, I decided it was time to take Moose out for a walk. And so I did. And while I was taking him out for a walk, I saw a stray dog, a Chihuahua. And Moose, as usual, as he always does with dogs, wanted to run and play with the dog. Now the Chihuahua reasonably freaked out a little bit because he didn't know what was going on, because Chihuahua was like this big. Moose is not. And so then the Chihuahua ran into the middle of the street and got hit by a truck. That's not the part that sucked, though. The part that sucked was the Chihuahua was still alive, and I was, having seen what happened, resolved in trying to help the dog, because, I mean, who the fuck wouldn't? Who wouldn't? So I went and I tried to help the Chihuahua, and before I could get to him, another car came by and seemingly steered into the dog. Now the dog was hit by 2 cars. From what I could tell, he clearly had a broken spine. He was bleeding in the street, but he was still alive. So, not knowing what to do, I decided to call animal control, who passed me over to the animal shelter. Then the animal shelter told me to call animal control. And so then, by the time I went through all the different voice systems, because no one picks up a phone anymore, all of these lines literally just have one of those touch key voice systems. So I went through 3 different voice systems before I finally got hold of someone. And when I told them that it was an emergency, there was a dog with a clear owner, because the dog had a collar. A dog with a clear owner. The guy at the other end of the line said, "I'm sorry, but we don't handle that. You need to call the animal shelter." He forwarded my call to the animal shelter. By this point, the dog had clearly died. Moose was standing there crying, whining, because every time a car ran over this frickin' dog, Moose knew exactly what was happening. He whined, he cried, he barked, he begged. I had to move away so that I could at least avert Moose's eyes. And there was nothing else I could do for this dog, so I started continuing to call, because someone had to clean up this damn Chihuahua from the middle of the street. And so I called the animal shelter, and they said that they don't do dead animal cleanup. For that, I have to call the sanitation department. I spent almost half an hour on the phone just trying to get someone to come out and help. I looked up the number for the sanitation department and I called. By this point it was about 5:29. Lady at the sanitation department said that they don't do dead animal cleanup, and for that I need to call the animal shelter or animal control. Well, as I'd already called the animal shelter, I called back animal control. And they said that I need to call the sanitation department. I called back the sanitation department and they were closed. They closed at 5:30. Whoever it was that picked up my phone call looked at the time and decided they didn't want to deal with this dead body in the middle of the street. They'd rather call it a day. And they knew if they just lied to me and told me to call someone else, by the time I figured it out and called back, they'd be closed. So, pissed off, annoyed, hurt, I decided to finish Moose's walk and I came back home. At which point I ran into Ben. And Ben, you were reasonably angry for something that happened earlier in your day. And I told you everything that happened, and without missing a beat, you went and told me to grab a trash bag and said we were just going to deal with this now. Because I guess I am going to talk about integrity. Because that right there, that is integrity. That is what needs to happen. There is a problem and someone needs to solve it. I mean, if this was someone on the street, someone that got shot, which in this neighborhood it happens. I would hate to think that the police or the fire department are run the same way. I mean, this bureaucratic red tape, this clear corruption in the system, this is a problem. A problem that needs solving, and I don't know what needs to be done to solve it, but the entire system is just broken. There are people with absolutely no integrity who would rather just lie on the phone instead of actually doing their job. There are people that don't want to deal with the problem, so they just pass the buck on, knowing that once I figure out who I'm supposed to call, while I'm clearly distressed, it'll be too late. There is no integrity in our system. And there needs to be. This bureaucracy has just stifled anything. Like, God, I thought the DMV was bad. But the bureaucratic red tape goes so much deeper. God forbid you ever need a city service. I'm sorry, I'm sure this video is going to run over, and I'll do whatever punishment I have to, but this is a problem that I felt needed to be addressed. Because now there is an owner out there somewhere of a at once rather adorable Chihuahua who can't even get bad news because by the time we came, we couldn't even find the dog's collar. That owner is just going to think their dog ran away and never bothered coming back. They won't know what happened to her. They don't know what could happen if the dog is alive or not. They don't know. They're going to spend God knows how long searching shelter after shelter, which, as discussed, is a pointless endeavor, apparently. They're going to put up signs. God, if that owner had kids that loved this dog, they're going to spend hours heartbroken, crying, printing out posters, looking through pictures, putting up signs, trying to find their dog. And I can't even contact them to give them the smallest shred, the smallest iota of peace. Because some jackass took the dead dog's collar. By the time we got back there, no one even cared. God knows how many times this dog had been run over. And everyone just went about their day. We live in a broken society. We're run by a broken system. I'm mad. And I don't know what to do about it. See you next week.